Hello, this is Craig, and this is mini Bible study series number 17 in the Sermon on the Mount. We're looking at the Sermon on the Mount. We are currently in Matthew chapter 6, and we're going to look at 19, 20, and 21. Matthew chapter 6, 19, 20, and 21. And these are the very words of Jesus Christ. He's teaching us how to be Christ-like. He says, "Do not lay up for yourselves treasures on earth, where moth and rust destroy and where thieves break in and steal. But lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust destroys, where thieves do not break in and steal. For where your treasure is, there your heart will be also." Jesus is teaching us that things in this world will be corrupted. Things in this world that we lay up, we work all of our lives. We store up, we save, we buy things, we buy a home. Now, Jesus is not saying, I don't believe he's saying, don't take care of yourself and don't have a decent home to live in and have a decent vehicle to drive. There's nothing against that. But he's saying, do not lay up treasures for yourself on earth. Don't focus on earthly riches, is what he's saying. Because if we focus on earthly riches, it's going to go away. And you can't take it with you. And he is saying, this is a unique study that Jesus gives about the true meaning of being Christ-like. He's not opposed to us taking care of ourselves, but he's saying, don't focus on getting rich and having all this stuff. Lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven. Do things that are pleasing to God. What are treasures in heaven? Because rust and moth doesn't corrupt that. I believe what Jesus is saying here is, take care of yourself, but don't accumulate a bunch of stuff that's just going to rust and decay on earth. But he says, sow the seed of the word of God to others. Sow kindness to others. Love people. Most importantly, lead people to Christ. Wow, I can't do that. I can't. Yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. We are all, those of us who have come to Christ and have received this great salvation, been filled with His Spirit, been baptized in His name, we are to be disciples of Jesus Christ, and we are to disciple others. That's what the Word of God teaches us. And Jesus is saying, don't focus on all the earthly goods. Yeah, take care of yourself, but focus on the things that are heavenly and eternal. And those things are living a good life, being a kind person, doing good things. But I believe most importantly, it's winning other people to Christ. Now, notice I did not say preach at people, shove religion down the throat. Didn't say that. Jesus doesn't say that. Share your testimony. If God has saved you, He's saved you from stuff. We all have a testimony. Share it. If we see that people are not interested, be quiet. If we see that maybe they have questions, they ask questions, we answer. But very important point here, when we're sharing the love of Christ with others, when we see their eyes glaze over, stop. Stop, okay? And I know if your eyes glaze over when you're listening to this, you can just shut me off. So I'm not worried about that. But if we see their eyes glaze over, stop. Share the love of Christ the way you would want it shared with you. That's treasures in heaven. That's a part of the treasures in heaven. Being kind, being loving, giving good, gifts to others, being a blessing to others, being a blessing to the church. All that are treasures in heaven. But I believe the most important one is sharing the gospel of Jesus Christ in a loving way with others. So lay up your treasures in heaven, because he says, where your treasure is, your heart's going to be there also. I want my heart to be heavenward. May the Lord bless you and be a blessing to someone this week.